I hope that you are seated comfortably, with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Somebody there?
Hello and welcome back to Ecto Portal. I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson. Hi, nice to be here.
and we're also here with...
Linda Walker, your news lady.
There you go, paranormal news in a minute.
In a minute.
So first we're going to catch up on what we did. Verna, what did you do this weekend?
I went to the Oakland Columbarium over in Oakland. It's near Piedmont.
Visiting friends?
Well, yeah,
Potential?
I did visit a few friends that day.
Okay,
In fact, yeah.
that's good. So it wasn't,
It was very beautiful. It was a very old building. The paint's peeling off on the walls. Some of the decorations are kind of peeling off and falling apart in there. But it's very beautiful. About 2 floors, lots of niches.
nice. Is it bigger than the Columbarium in San Francisco?
Slightly smaller. It's got
Really?
2 floors instead of 3 floors, but it has the domed roof. It has the beautiful stained glass artwork,
Nice.
and I believe that most of the people buried there are from the same era as the people from the Columbarium, late 1800s, all the
Yep.
way up through the 21st century.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. They were nice. I have to go there.
Yeah, I put the pictures on the Ecto Portal Facebook site if people want to go ahead and reference and take a look at the article.
Very
in there.
cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Let's see. More stargazing that weekend. Saw some more meteors.
Cool.
And then we went to this place called, we went hiking to this place called Sibley Hiking Trails. And I believe that there was this old shack that we weren't sure whether it was what it was built for. Rather, it was a hunting lodge, and it had broken crockery around it. It was near where the old tunnel is built there, and we were wondering if it was a temporary place for workers to eat and sleep, because they had an old faucet in there. And
Is Sibley the name of the place, too?
Sibley is the name of the hiking trails there. It's a bunch of hiking trails.
But where's the trails at?
Yeah, where's it at?
Where exactly is it at?
She's going to remember this every time she goes somewhere. Greg, where are we?
It's let's see, where is it near? Well, it's near Moraga, I believe. So
I don't know where that is, so I'll
it's
take
in the
your
East
word
Bay.
for it.
It's in the
Okay.
East Bay.
Yeah, Moraga's in the East Bay.
Nice.
It's in the East Bay, and the very beautiful scenery and hills, and that old hunting shack is way up there. Lots of broken crockery. I believe people have been by it, and
No tin roof? Rust?
no tin roof, but broken down chairs and crockery and old hunting shack. So we took a look at it, and I tried to. Of course, I turned on the equipment to see if we got anything. Didn't get anything, but we did get some stuff at the Columbarium.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. I wasn't able to.
Have you
record
recorded
it.
each time you were there, or just this last time?
I didn't record it.
Just this
time.
last. Oh, this time you didn't.
I didn't record it, but we had the PX on, and some stuff was coming through the PX.
They take my PX. And
Yeah,
bring it over there.
we
Cool.
borrowed Linda's PX.
Which I have it tonight.
She has it tonight, but we
Nice.
borrowed it that weekend, and we anyway we had it, and it was the batteries were fading, but stuff was still coming through, and we weren't sure. We didn't get enough information to really document a lot of it, but anyway, we got some stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, and then and then we just went yeah, it was just a nice leisurely weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Only thing I did was plan 3 more shows. Woo! Saw the Tom Hanks movie Sully.
How you like that?
It was pretty good. There was nothing else to see, really. So I thought, let's go with the Tom Hanks movie. He gets in trouble every time he goes in a movie. Mm-hmm. And I realized you should never travel with Tom Hanks. Think about it. What happened when he went to the moon?
Well, yeah.
What happened when he got deserted on a desert island?
That's true.
What happens when he's flying a plane? No way, I'm not going anywhere near
no,
you, Tom
because you
Hanks.
wind up in the Hudson.
Exactly. At least they lived.
Well, they did. That's
Yeah,
a true
they
lived,
story.
yeah, they
I
lived.
remember when that happened.
At first I thought it was while I was living in New York, and I realized, no, that was the drunk ferry captain from Staten Island, which was a whole nother situation.
Oh, yes.
He was actually inebriated, and he crashed the ferry into or pulled the ferry away from the pier, and cars went in the water, and it wasn't a pretty
was a
sight.
mess.
Daily News loved it, every bit of it.
Of course they did. Yeah.
Disasters are good news.
They are, and so I saw that, and then I saw. I went to see Puddles' Pity Party at the Independent
Oh,
again.
yes. I was going to ask you
Yeah,
about
how
Puddles.
was that?
Puddles
How was
is
it?
like old school performance artist.
He is totally a scary
He
clown.
doesn't talk
No, he
at
doesn't.
all. He's 6'5".
He's huge.
He's a trained opera singer, but he sings
Yes.
covers of popular and
Oh, I heard him
Rock
sing.
songs.
He actually
yeah.
is very good.
he did covers of like Styx, Come Sail Away. He did Under Pressure with David Bowie and Freddie Mercury.
Oh, good
And
Lord.
and he pulls people on stage and he makes them sing, and then he'll sing and he'll do crazy things with them. It's fun.
Besides you, I have some other friends who are really into Puddles.
Cool.
When he's in town, they have to go and
He's
see
developing
Puddles.
his following. I told him every time
he
I
has
see
a
him,
huge following.
every time I see him, I look up at him and go, "Big Mike, where's the CD?" And he kind of is taken aback, and he looks at me like he doesn't say anything because he stays in his clown persona. But
Well, yeah, but I also love the picture that you post on Facebook with you and Puddles, and you had Puddles'
that was
little,
great.
little
Oh, the little
crown,
hat on.
his
Yeah,
little
that
crown.
was really cute.
You had it, and you look like
Our
you would have
sad
been his
clown.
little brother.
That's exactly what it reminded
with my
me of.
T-shirt with Puddles on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that
that's what
was
he's pointing
perfect.
to. Yeah, I think even the people selling shirts are like, wow, that one's cooler than the one we're selling.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, well,
Well, hey.
I'm sure Puddles isn't getting a
Will
dime
you take
from
me
this
to
one
a
either.
Puddles next time? I'd love to see Puddles next
Yeah,
time.
I'll let you know. I'll give you
Yeah.
a shout out. He
Yeah.
was at the Regency Ballroom before, which I loved better because it's an old lodge.
Well, where did he
Yeah.
play that?
It's in a ballroom.
I know,
It's on
I know
Van
the region ballroom, but did he play the region this time again?
No, the Independent this time.
Oh.
Over on the Visadero.
The Visadero used to
Yeah.
be the old Kennel Club.
Yeah, right next to that old movie theater that's boarded up.
I know where that is.
But
Yeah.
I loved the Regency Ballroom because it's an old lodge
Yeah.
hall, and it's beautiful. That wood and
I've been in there a few times.
The sound is
very
better.
It
nice.
puts
yeah,
I mean, no offense, but it's beautiful.
it is
Well,
beautiful.
and
yeah.
not only that, the sound is a lot better than the Independent, I personally think.
Oh yeah, I didn't like the sound.
The sound is
way
horrible
on the
over
side
there.
of the stage. We couldn't see him directly. He never really sang to us much. Just the
It's not
front.
much of a stage. up
No,
there
it isn't.
either.
It's a small.
It's a small venue.
And I'm
Yeah.
surprised because he sold out the first show. He didn't sell out the second show. Maybe that's why he was.
That's because everybody wanted to come the first night.
And last time he had 2 shows the same night, but he didn't sell out the second one. So I
Huh.
wonder if that's why he chose a smaller venue.
That probably, yeah.
It was still cool. I still loved
Wow.
it. He always mixes it up. It's fun.
Sounds like fun.
He's such a clown.
He is such a clown. So I did that. I still am continuing my obsession with the TV show One Step Beyond. So I watch
Step beyond.
every night. I watch at least 1 or 2 episodes of the ones that survive because there's still some that are missing.
You know, American Horror Story is coming back tonight.
I know, but that show is great for a concept, but they always peter out, and it's terrible at the end.
Well,
I haven't finished a season of that in 3 years.
oh my gosh.
Asylum was the last one I finished. When I started Coven,
Everybody likes Asylum.
I really liked Coven, and then they started to change history and kind of ignored history, and I'm like, this isn't what really happened, and then it fell apart.
I like Freak Show. Freak Show was
I
fun.
started Freak Show until they had a modern day song performed in the show.
I
and
thought it was.
It took me out of it.
It was, yeah, it was really different. Yeah, but
So
C'est la
there you
vie.
go. So other than that, that's pretty much. I made a promo, the video promo for our show,
That was
saw
great.
it.
I saw
so
that.
good.
That was great.
and I
Yeah.
stole that from Jay's show, which is just before this one every Wednesday at 6 to 8. And I thought, wow, what a great idea! And you know what
turned
you do
out
with
really
great
great,
ideas?
Tony.
You steal great ideas. So I thought I'd use it.
And you're probably going to make some more promo videos. And
If I'm really ambitious, I can do one per week. But I thought I really don't have any audio to add to it because we don't do the show until Wednesday, and then I can't promote it ahead of time. I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
yeah.
Get ready for October. That's going to be the fun time.
Well, maybe
You know,
Halloween. 'Cause we want to do our Halloween show on the
Yeah.
19th.
Well,
So
We're definitely
So
trying to plan
that-
the Halloween.
we'll get guests before that.
We're trying to plan the
couple weeks
Halloween
before.
show.
But yeah, we'll
Get a
have
real
fun.
vampire in here.
Well, that's an option too. If we
There
can't
you
get
go.
a witch, we can get a vampire.
Why
we
not?
tried for ghosts. Let's go for the whole gambit.
Hey, why
Know
not?
any werewolves?
We are trying to get a guest in for
I
the
can dress up as a werewolf.
We're trying to get a guest for the Halloween show, and it's
No. We're going to do our own Halloween show and have them do it 2 weeks before.
right.
So we can do our own Halloween seance and have fun on the Halloween show.
Right. I forgot
So,
about
and
that.
get callers
Yeah.
to call in, hopefully. Hear that,
Okay.
callers? You're going to call in on our Halloween show, right?
I hope so.
All right, so shall we continue on to the...
Yes.
Paranormal news.
The paranormal news with Linda.
It sounded like something I ate. Well, good evening, everybody. This is Linda Walker, your hostess with the mostest with the paranormal news, and I got 3 articles that is going to be on the Echo Portal website. And the first one I'm going to tell you about, and you probably see it on the Facebook site, is the Witches' Temple in Scotland. And apparently they were doing a tour in there, and a tourist happened to take a snapshot of the temple, which we call the Witches' Circle, and caught an apparition on film of a person sitting in one of the chairs around the circle.
That's the one with the kind of violet haziness around
The
it.
violet hazy, yeah. Which I think is pretty good, pretty cool.
I wish it was closer up. Like I could
I wish
zoom
the
in. I
fi-
wanted to zoom in so bad to see the image.
I wish the figure was a little more stand out. I mean, you can see it looks more like an aura to me than an apparition. But that's what they got, and I think it's really cool. And
Well, they don't post
you know.
pictures,
Oh, why not?
I mean, they have been known to take selfies or photobomb people. I've seen that.
Oh, you know what? Ghosts are very famous for photobombing.
They are,
They're the originals.
especially family photos.
I know. Who'll think it? Anyhow, so that's been the latest news around the web.
So that was a witch's coven. What
Yeah, it
was
was
it?
called the Witches' Temple, and it's in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Okay.
And also they reported because it's still actively people still practice in the temple, and
okay.
they said that they have like weird things like things being thrown at, and they said when they're doing a ritual, whatever, they have rocks being thrown at them
Yikes.
by spirits.
All right.
So obviously somebody does not like them practicing there for some reason.
Okay.
Okay, and so another one, which I thought was kind of pretty cool, interesting. I want you guys to look at the video if you can. This one was taken in Thailand, and it's a CCTV footage of it captured a bicycle that appears to be chained down. Like chained down. In a garage kind of place.
Chained down, or is it
Chained.
chained
Like
up to a
the
bike
wheels
rack?
is chained around it. When you lock up your bike.
You chain up your bike to a
chain up
bike
your
rack?
bike and
Okay.
stuff. It's like,
Okay.
And apparently there's like, you can see an apparition, not sitting on top of the bike, but you can see them start pedaling the bike. And you see the wheel going around and around, and you just see it pedaling.
So someone's trying out the bike while it's locked.
Right.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
That
And
takes a lot of
they caught
energy.
it.
And then-
they caught it on
Yeah,
film?
the guy had Yeah, he had it on his video thing.
Well, someone misses bike riding.
Yeah. Well, he had it on his video thing, and he didn't come out until later on because a bucket was sitting on the other side, and it just got tossed. So you can see a bucket getting tossed, and then he went out and picked up the bucket and looked around, and he just went, "Oh well," and went back into the house.
Dude, my bike!
So if you get a chance to look at that footage, it's really kind of cool, kind of interesting. You decide if you think that's real or not. And then my last one, which I thought was really super cool, is this takes place in Chile. And
Chile?
Chile. Chile is known for their miners. And there's a miner getting out of the elevator, because it's, the tunnel. And there's another miner, an apparition of another miner, standing right next to him. A full apparition. Just beautiful. Kind of a grayish.
Is it a picture or video?
Yeah, it's a picture.
It's a picture?
Oh, okay.
It's a picture. You'll see it in the website, in the Echo Porter website.
On the Facebook page.
On the Facebook
And
page.
where's the location where the miner is again? What
He's by the
location?
elevator shaft.
He's by the elevator shaft. But
Yeah,
where did this take place?
Chile.
Oh, in
Chile.
Chile. You said Chile. Okay.
Yeah,
You did
Chile
say
is
that.
famous for their mining over there. And apparently he was coming up from the elevator, and somebody took a picture of him. And
And he turned and said,
Good one.
I like that. That's good.
That was good.
And anyhow, so you can take a look at that picture. I thought it was really interesting. I think it's a great shot of an apparition. And that's it
Nice.
for that's my news. Nothing really exciting.
did you see the one I posted about the Bigfoot sighting?
Yes, the Bigfoot.
So what's
More
interesting...
Bigfoot sightings.
Now, are you talking about the Bigfoot that I just heard recently in the UK?
There was another Bigfoot sighting in the UK?
There's
I think it is.
There is.
It was caught on like some kind of park camera.
It was
and-
a guy in the UK, and apparently he
Oh,
was...
no, you're talking about one with the tree.
With the tree...
No, mine was
that's-
different than that. But I did read about that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't watch the video. It was like slow or something. But something about it shook a tree behind him or something.
It's supposedly, it shakes a tree, and you can see it took me a lot, because
Where are all
the footage is
Bigfoots?
so not good.
I mean,
and it's so dark. It took me several times
I didn't
it took
see
me
it. I
like
tried.
10 minutes. I had put my reading glasses on. I took a really good look, and they said, see, right there, and I'm going, what the hell? Where?
Yeah,
Where?
I didn't
don't
see it either.
You
I
know?
didn't see it either.
But so apparently, and then I finally see it.
so apparently there's Bigfoots in the United States. There's Bigfoots in the UK. I mean, there's Bigfoots running around different parts of the world, or...
Right, well,
There's
you
big
know...
patches of wilderness in all those parts of the world, too, though.
Well, that's true, but okay.
You know, I
That's-
mean, they're saying that these Bigfoots or these creatures have been around for thousands of years, and they just kind of like disappeared.
Well, I always say this to
whatever.
people who are like into UFOs and aliens but don't believe in Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. How many aliens have you seen lately?
Oh, you got a point.
You know,
The one crossing the border, or
they're like, no, but they exist because the government
kidding.
got bodies. Well, people have claimed to have gotten Bigfoot bodies too. But again, where have we all seen this stuff?
right? I mean,
Physically.
there's the Yetis in the Himalayas, and
There's
there's
all kinds of
Bigfoot in
creatures
UK.
that we probably don't know about, and hopefully, I hate to say this, but I hope we don't discover a lot of them because,
Yeah, what would we do to them if we did discover? Would they
exactly.
hunt them?
Commercialize
I hope
them, probably.
there's a lot of creatures that are remaining hidden, and I hope they remain hidden because
yeah,
There's
I
we
mean,
need
like
to preserve as much.
There's a Tessie in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe.
oh,
That was
I heard
reported
about
for
that.
years, and someone finally got the equipment to go down.
the kid with the camera.
Well, it was a guy. It wasn't a kid.
Well, oh yeah,
It was a grown man in his 60s. But okay.
Oh no! Really?
Maybe he acts like a
no,
kid.
no. I thought I
This
saw
is
a
the one
young
who took-
man.
This one wasn't a young man.
Okay, so there's
Well, I don't
two
know how
guys
young you're
doing it.
thinking. How young are you talking?
This guy looked like he was around his 30s.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought you were going to say like 20, but I was going to say no. But yeah, he got
Like
the
early
money in a
30s.
boat and a family to go out with him, put the camera down and check underwater, and he actually captured something big moving past the camera, but they thought it was a giant trout.
That's what they're saying, a giant trout.
Because it was really far down, really far. So I don't know.
Well,
there's
they're
probably
all-
a lot of there's probably a lot of creatures under the sea we've never even seen.
Oh, I'm
'cause
sure.
they're
Well,
so
also
deep.
lately they've been finding
And hopefully they'll stay that way.
at Loch Ness. There's this lady who apparently took a picture of. There's not one Loch Ness monster. There's two now.
There has to be two
Well, how
if
else
they
could
keep
they
seeing them
survive?
all those years.
They don't last for hundreds of years. They have to breed somehow,
I know.
right?
So, and well, also, here and right across the bay in the East Bay, in Lake Merritt, there's a creature there too.
Really?
Oh, speaking of the East Bay, I want to make a correction. I was talking earlier about Sibley and where it's located. It's located at Sibley Volcanic Preserve is located in Oakland, California.
There you go.
Just want to correct that location.
Oakland.
All right.
There.
So
Okay.
we have a topic coming up here we have a music break, but after our break here, we're going to discuss psychic investigations.
With Jeff Dwyer.
Psychic investigating with Jeff Dwyer.
Wow.
Book authors, many, many, many books. I have a pile of his books.
Me too.
Still going through them, still reading them.
Yep.
Me
Then he
too.
updates after I finish them. He updates them again. So I have to start all over again.
I know.
But there's plenty of areas he's covered. Lots of places, different states, cities.
Lots of places around the Bay Area. I have some questions for him about those places.
So if you travel and you're a ghost hunter, definitely pick up his handbooks because he has stories all over each of these locations, these cities, these states that you can check out. Some of them you can investigate, some of them you can't. Some of them he just shares some of the stories that the locals have and what's going on. So be sure and check out Jeff Dwyer's books. You can go to his website, and if you go to the FCCFreeRadio.com site right now on our Ecto Portal page, if you do a search on the top right for Ecto Portal or in the drop down for the shows on Day of the Week Wednesday, you'll actually see a link I put in there with Jeff's name. You can go to his website, check out that. His books are available everywhere, Amazon, but they're really, really good. And he has different methods as far as investigating, and we're going to explore that.
And definitely try to make it to some of his lectures, too. He does some really interesting lectures on the subject.
Absolutely. And events. He turns out for a lot of events.
He sure does.
I think he's at Doug Carnahan's next event in Yuma.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be
Is
there?
he?
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
he's gonna be
Okay,
there.
that's great.
I think it's Yuma. He'll correct me if it's not. I think it is. Yuma, Arizona. And I wanted to go to his last one, but I'm itching to go to Arizona because I never got to go to Tombstone. So
That's a place
I
I
would
would
love to
love
go
to
to
go.
Tombstone.
That would be great.
Another place.
That would be a great place to
know.
investigate.
Who knows if Doc Holliday would be there, right?
Who knows?
You never know.
The Boo knows.
Who knows?
So
Well-
yeah, it's cool. I mean, we got Preston Castle coming up.
Yes, sir, Bob.
If I become a docent on the USS Hornet, like I'm thinking of doing, you have to do twice a month, but you can to do the overnights. But I think it would be a lot of fun taking groups around, on the Hornet.
Absolutely.
But I would be limited to whenever my friend Pam can go out because she would pick me up in the East Bay to go over there because it's too difficult to get to.
You need a car.
Yeah, it's just or a good bike, but it's off the beaten path. So,
Sure. Yeah.
but anyway, it would be kind of fun. I don't know how long I would do it. I still will go out to Alcatraz occasionally. But I want to keep my ties because people like to go out there and I give them tours. But keep it close.
I'm excited
Yeah.
about Preston Castle. That's going to be my first one.
Yeah, Preston Castle leaves me lukewarm. I have never really gotten anything spectacular at Preston Castle, and I've been there like 4 times. This will be my 5th time, so this better be worth it, Linda.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to make
blame
it
it all
worth
on
it.
you.
We're going to have
I've
fun.
never been there. I
Anthony,
hope to
you
make it there
just
one of these days.
wait.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
We're going to have so much fun.
We are.
There's some mansions and some literary houses I really hope to investigate one of these days.
You can ask Jeff about that.
I'm going
To
to
highly
because that's what
recommend,
I was looking at his website and I found one I've been to and a few that I really would like to ask him about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, in just a few seconds here, we're going to go to our first break, and we're going to come back and talk with Jeff Dwyer about psychic investigating and his techniques. And I was thinking about that when I wrote my blog post this week, like, do I use them? And I realized the longer you're a ghost hunter, the more you develop, even if you're not aware of it. You're more aware of sounds and things around you and movement.
Absolutely.
That
How
sixth
people
sense becomes
breathe.
more sensitive as you keep going.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, it develops, and it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's definitely develops.
And I asked myself, what would be my strongest point of sense that I use? And I said sight, but then I thought, well, I use sight and sound a lot, but I really like to sit down and just get used to a place and listen, really listen.
Sitting in silence
So you
is the
know the
best way.
sounds of the location versus sounds that might not be at the location all the time.
Right.
So I'm sure Jeff has some insights about that as well.
I think
Absolutely.
that's actually the best part, is sitting there. People think it's the most boring part, but it's actually the best part, and it's the part that's going to get you to the next step. It's just sitting quietly for quite a while and just take in that silence, because that's when things start to come in unexpectedly and you start to get a feel for the place, the atmosphere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
If you have
And
the patience, it's worth it.
I have a lot of friends who don't like to sit still and be quiet.
Oh, yes, sir.
But,
certain people.
You have to learn in this
But everybody
field.
has their different technique
Right.
too, so I won't be
Yeah,
forcing them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they get results, so
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to our first break, and we'll be back right after with Jeff Dwyer.
An aura is an energy field that surrounds all living and non-living things. Everything is interconnected in our solar system. Each one of the cells in our bodies generates electricity. As we've seen with lightning, electricity connects with other bolts of lightning to create chain lightning, as like attracts like. Your aura is an electromagnetic field that surrounds your body. Look into a mirror and gaze at a spot a few inches away from your ear or the top of your head. At first, you might see a nearly invisible field of energy, about 1 inch from your head. As you continue to focus on this area, a color will begin to show.
I see dead people.
Okay, and we were back. And just a few seconds here, hopefully, we'll give Jeff Dwyer giving us a call as our guest tonight about psychic investigating. He might have tried to just call. There was one ring, and then it just sort of, that was it.
I just messaged him to remind him, just in case he wants to try again.
That's good. Oh, were you just getting back from the restroom there, Linda?
Just a little tinkle.
Okay, that's good. Wash your hands.
She had to hurry back.
That's good. We don't want her to stay out too long.
Stop picking on me.
Oh, it's okay.
You're entitled to a little break.
That's right.
So hopefully in a minute we'll hear from Jeff Dwyer.
That's me when I'm with my husband.
So again, tonight's topic is going to be psychic investigating, in tune with using yourself as your most important tool when investigating. People have different techniques, different practices for different reasons, and I like to watch different people try different techniques myself,
Different tools.
just to see what results they get. Because sometimes they do things that I never thought about, and I like to incorporate some of the ideas that I see into what I do to hopefully get some response or maybe more results.
I think it always begins with the person developing their sixth sense, and then, of course, the tools come for documentation, and then after a while, you have to sort of work with works for you. I think you can borrow a lot of tips from a lot of investigators, but ultimately, you have to go with what's working for you in each one. That's why it's good to write all this down and record your results. Oh, good.
Oh, I think that might be Jeff. Hold on just a second. Okay, Jeff, are you there?
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Hey.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Verna. Hey, good stuff tonight. It's really been fun.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So our topic, of course, being psychic investigating. And I know you
Yeah.
use a lot of techniques in that arena as opposed to, let's say, just equipment, just physical, technical equipment.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
is your general
stuff-
philosophy about that?
Well, my philosophy is basically that ghosts have no physicality. And so using physical equipment is kind of a hit or miss thing. It depends on whether the ghost wants to interact with the electronic circuits. and it's easier to connect with them if you use the psychic method.
That's cool. So I guess the receiving end could vary upon, I would imagine, per location, per the person that's perceiving it, with, I guess, experience, information, and just technique, too.
Yeah, a lot of that goes into it, yeah, establishing an emotional connection with a ghost.
Now, how do you first establish an emotional connection? If you're now, it helps to read the history, and it helps to find out where you are and the history of the place and the people that who once inhabited the place. But what if you know little or no history? What's your way of establishing a connection?
Yeah, it's more difficult if you don't have any background information, history, that sort of thing. Much more difficult. In fact, I know a lot of psychics go into a place and they really don't want to know anything about the background material, and they approach it that way because they don't want to have any accusations of bias or preconceived notions or information, and they use that as a way of corroborating or proving the validity of their reports.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I understand all that, but if you don't have an opportunity to do any research, you can go into a place and introduce yourself and explain why you're there, because a lot of ghosts will not generate psychic energy to communicate with a living person unless you make yourself interesting to that ghost. I've seen so many people walk into a haunted place and say, "Hello, are there any spirits here who want to communicate with me?"
Oh, yeah.
And then they hold out their audio recorder waiting for an EVP to show up or something like that.
So
and that
true.
doesn't really work. You might get something random, but the best way to do it is to go in and express your empathy for the place. You can get a lot of clues from just where you are.
Yeah.
If you're on the Hornet in Alameda, you can speak in terms of military experiences. If you're on Alcatraz, you can speak in terms of incarceration and a life of criminal activity. And if you're over at the Neptune Columbarium and over there on the De Anza Court, San Francisco, you can read a lot in terms of the little trinkets that are in these niches where everyone's ashes are.
Yeah, and whenever we go there, we always use our Oddfellows angle since we're Oddfellows.
Yeah.
And there's an Oddfellows built it, and there's a lot of Oddfellows niches in there, so we kind of use that angle sometimes.
Yeah, you see shot glasses, and you see golf balls, and you see other little things, you model airplanes and cars and stuff, and you can start to say, I see you're interested in airplanes. I'm a pilot too. We have something in common, and right away, having some familiarity really evokes a ghost's interest in the ghost hunter.
It's just like with when you're meeting people, you're going to talk to somebody who starts a subject with you that you're interested in, and who comes up and seems like an interesting person. So I imagine it's the same thing.
It is very much the same thing. People don't really have much interest in speaking to us unless we kind of express something from ourselves that reveals our interest in them. And so if you don't know anything about the ghosts that may be in a haunted location, use clues from the environment and just go from there. Yeah.
I also find that if they're from a certain time period, they're very much into manners, and I find that when you introduce yourself and you're very polite about it, and then you tell them, this is why I'm here, and you tell them that you're trying to be very respectful, that you get a lot of response.
Oh, yeah, and you can talk generally about the particular era. In San Francisco, so many of us know the history of the city, and you can speak about, before the earthquake of 1906, after the earthquake, the World War II years, that sort of thing, kind of, because one of the things that helps a ghost or provokes a ghost to generate psychic energy that we could pick up on is to make them interested in what we're saying and reflect our interest in them.
Now, granted, would you agree you don't always do this verbally? Sometimes you can do this internally as well, right?
I think ghosts can read us,
Yeah.
much like an empath can read a living person who has emotional difficulties.
Yep.
I think ghosts have that ability because they're not encumbered by the physiology of a physical body, and so they can make a psychic connection with us very easily.
It's like energy attracts energy almost, and then they can get close enough and they can just read what you're thinking, what your thought process is, what you're actually, looking at, thinking about, what you're going to say even.
They can read your energy field probably too.
They can do that, Verna, yeah, and they get a really good idea of what that is, and that's why I recommend that we all do a little meditation before we go into a place, because
absolutely
it will subdue our internal distractions and shield us against those, but it may also prevent or shield a ghost against picking up all the junk that's going on in our minds on a daily basis, And when we walk into a place with 15 different concerns on our minds and then say, hey, does anybody want to speak to my audio recorder?
Oh, yeah.
That ghost is really looking at a barrage of psychic junk, and it doesn't know what to make of that. So it's not likely it's going to communicate.
It's like, oh, your laundry list, your grocery list. Get away from me.
Yeah,
or if you're worried, I'm sure your worries, all your worries come out, and they can read all your worries.
Yeah, and they can read your biases and your doubts as well. So if you have some sort of negative opinion of a ghost who said, let's say, committed suicide, the ghost will pick that up and may not choose to communicate with you because it senses that bias that you may have against suicide.
And I wouldn't blame it. I wouldn't blame him or her.
Yeah, I wouldn't speak to somebody who had a negative attitude about something that's a core of my being. So why would we expect a ghost to do that?
Yeah, I've seen someone provoke as suicide, saying, well, why'd you kill yourself? You're a coward. Why'd you kill yourself? You're just a big coward. And I'm like, wow, this is the worst kind of line of questioning you could come up with.
Yeah, that's negative provocation, and I think provocation is widely used by some paranormal groups, and it's really not a technique that we ought to embrace.
No.
The only thing I will do in terms of provocation is to remind a ghost that we may not be thinking about it or be concerned about its concerns if it doesn't manifest, to let us know that it's here.
That's true.
And that's as far as I go. I think people who use profanity, I've seen ghost hunters who light fires in people's homes and who do other nasty things like spill animal blood and things like that. That's a
I could never even imagine that.
Spirit, I think.
Wow, that's crazy.
I wonder who's the group is doing that.
Yeah, who's doing that?
Yeah, leave that group, Linda.
There was a group on some channel. It might have been, I don't think it was Travel Channel, but it was some sort of cable channel about 2 years ago. Two guys, they were crazy idiots.
I remember the show.
And they were in the southern states, and they went into some sort of old prison and spilled animal blood and started a fire.
That's nuts.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It only lasted like 5 or 6 episodes.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I remember
Anthony.
this. Everyone's like, my God.
They were doing it for drama effect?
Yeah.
Or did they really believe they were going to provoke the spirits by doing that?
Both.
They thought it'd be good television, but even beyond that, there are groups that have done this without the benefit of a TV camera present.
That's so
There was a
disrespectful.
fire recently down in the New Orleans area, a big mansion. It was a plantation from the 19th century. Ghost hunters went in there, and they took candles in, and lo and behold, it caught on fire, and this huge 6,000 square foot mansion burned to the ground.
Oh man,
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's funny that actually happened 2 days after I got back from New Orleans and saw the mansion on one of the tours I was on.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I got home, I read about that. I'm like, oh man, this gives such horrible,
That's awful.
horrible reputations for ghost hunters. No matter where you're from or what your techniques are, this puts a big old bad mark on us.
Yeah, and it's completely counterproductive, and it's completely opposite to what we should be doing. We should be nurturing a relationship between ourselves and the spirit, and not
Absolutely.
using a lot of negative provocation to get it to give us a two-word EVP that thrills people.
Yeah. I got the intention by reading the articles that what they had done is got drunk in the mansion. The cops came. They needed a reason. Oh, yeah, we were ghost hunting. And because they had set fire to the place, thought it was funny. So
It's terrible.
great. Use us as your scapegoat. It's still not going to get you out of jail.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now, Jeff, you've actually been seeing spirits since you were 10 years old. You actually used to go haunting in you used to go exploring old mansions and old houses. Tell us about some of your first experiences when you were 10, and how this actually got you to develop your sixth sense and the methods that you use.
Well, I grew up in Alameda, which is an island community there in San Francisco Bay, and at the time there were a lot of Victorian houses from the late 19th century, and many of them actually were vacant at the time. It's amazing. These days, a Victorian mansion in Alameda would sell for close to $1 million, but when I grew up, they were basically vacant. And my buddies and I, just out of curiosity more than anything else, would sort of slip in through an open window or find a door that was ajar and walk around inside. And one of them on Broadway in Alameda, I walked into what I think was a parlor, and I saw a old woman sitting in a rocking chair. Scared the heck out of me initially.
Was she real?
And I thought, what in the world would some
You just thought you walk into you interrupted an older lady's house.
Gown, be sitting there in a rocking chair. And as I watched, she rocked back and forth about 3 times and then just literally faded away in front of my eyes. And, of course, I turned and ran out of there all the way home.
Wow.
But a few days later, I got the nerve to go back into another house and heard footsteps walking around, her doors opening and closing, and saw partial apparitions. And then I realized I'm seeing ghosts. But it really came home to me when I was about 12. I lived in a Victorian house in Alameda, and looking out the window on kind of a rainy day, I noticed a person walking across the front of our house on the sidewalk, dressed in an old sailor's outfit with a sea bag hanging over his shoulder. And I watched him walk, and he turned and looked at me, and he had no eyes. And then as I watched him walk a few more steps, he just faded away completely right in front of my eyes. And then I was absolutely certain that I could see ghosts.
Wow. That would convince me.
That would definitely convince me.
It was freaky. It was exciting. And but I didn't really work with that ability until many years later when I got out of school. I went to school for a long time, 12 years at the university. And so when I finally got out, I started nurturing that ability and found out I can see spirits. And I see them in broad daylight. I'm not one of those people who thinks you have to be out there at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Now, for your day job, you're a surgeon, is that correct?
No, cardiologist.
Cardiologist? Okay.
Yeah, I don't do surgery. You wouldn't want me to cut open your chest.
Well, I was going to ask, in your day job, of course, a lot of medical centers are famous for having a lot of spirits in the place. I'm sure you probably spot a lot places of work, a lot of medical centers where you are.
Oh yeah, hospitals are in my top 5 places for ghosts, and they're also in the top 5 for environmental imprints, which are created by living persons who have intense emotional experiences, particularly repetitive, intense emotional experiences. But hospitals are full of ghosts, not only the older ones, but new ones. Our hospital, our new facility opened in 2010, and we're already full of ghosts. But our old hospital was well known. We had ICU beds number 12 and number 13 were constantly showing spirits. Whenever the rare periods of time when those beds were empty, nurses would tell me that they would see a former patient with whom they were very familiar show up in that bed. Just show up like they were still there. And our ER was haunted. Our chemotherapy clinic was haunted. And our rehab unit, which dated from World War II, was haunted with the ghost of a pilot who was probably rehabbed at the hospital. So,
Which
yeah, that's a good place
Jeff?
to go.
I'm sorry, Jeff. This is Linda, Verna's sister. Which hospital that you worked at? You saw all this?
I've worked at several hospitals: Stanford, UCLA Medical Center, USC Medical Centers, Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, Duke University Medical Center in North Carolina, and Kaiser Medical Center in Vallejo.
Oh, wow.
So you've seen a lot.
Yeah, at St. Mary's Hospital in San Francisco, I've been all through there, and there's a lot of ghosts there as well.
My mother, when my mother was sick, the Kaiser in San Francisco, the main hospital, she was in a room, and she told my sister and I that she saw a black shadowy figure walking right past her room, scared the living daylights out of her.
Yeah, the night staff tell me about that a lot. They see dark shadows walking around. And some of the engineers who are working on problems during the night, they tell me that toolboxes have been found moved several feet or turned up missing, only to show up hours later tucked away in some closet somewhere. And they see dark shadows as well.
What about patients who are dying? Have they ever expressed to you that they're seeing relatives or?
Yeah, and that's a really ominous sign. When I hear from patients, go and see them in the morning, they say, "Oh, you'll never guess who was here last night. You know, my sister Dorothy." And I said, "Really? Where does she live?" "Oh, well, she died 10 years ago." "Really? But Dorothy was here last night." "Yes, she was." Well, that's a pretty ominous sign to me. You know, that means the spirits are coming to comfort the living person as they make the transition. And sure enough, usually within 48 hours, that living person is no longer living.
Yep.
Hey, Jeff, can you hold on? We're going to take a quick station break for about 8 minutes or so, and then we'll come back.
Sure. You bet.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back with more with Jeff Dwyer right after this station break.
They're here.
Hello, welcome back to Ecto Portal. That was So Peaceful in the Country by Shock Music and Hi-Fi, Spanish Flea by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and the theme to the dating game. And also that finished that with We're All Made of Stars by Moby. Jeff, you still there? Hello? Jeff? Maybe Jeff's not there?
Still here.
Oh, you're still there.
Good.
Cool. We thought we lost you.
Nope, I'm still here.
Cool deal. Just out of curiosity, you said you were looking at you worked at and visited a lot of different medical centers. Have you ever actually visited Laguna Honda for any reason?
Years ago, went over there and walked around a bit.
Okay, because I know back in the day it was originally the same site as the Alms House, which was San Francisco's poorhouse.
Yes.
And I don't know if I get the feeling they tore it down and just rebuilt Laguna Honda in its place, but did you ever get any feelings from that place?
Yeah, I get a creepy feeling in every hospital I go in, even newer hospitals. So, yeah, I did feel strange over there.
That one's just, I mean, there were so many suicides and murders and kidnappings in Sutro Forest right behind it, so I'm sure that was the result of people who ended up in the poorhouse. They said like people in the gold rush had lost everything that came from Europe or Canada. They would end up in the poorhouse, and that's usually how their fate ended up. They would shoot themselves, hang themselves, what have you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of them realized they would never go back home to the East Coast of Europe, and if they were able to actually accomplish the trip, they would have to go home penniless, which was a huge disappointment to their families, and so they couldn't face that. So they just committed suicide out here in California.
Yeah, it's
Very
actually
sad.
Very sad. Very sad. Did you have another question, Verna?
Yeah. Now, I remember when we were both talking on Messenger, you told me that one of your quest is to find John Steinbeck's ghost. And I was also reading on your website that you were going to be looking for the ghost of Steve Jobs. Now, my question is, what is your criteria in exploring the ghost of a certain individual, and what would make you have an interest in finding that person?
Well, I look for individuals who I believe would have a very high degree of psychic energy. And both Steinbeck and Jobs fit that criterion very perfectly. In fact, Steve Jobs, I think, hits it perfectly, because much of what he accomplished, I believe, was because he had a tremendous amount of psychic energy. Not that he was a psychic. He probably would have denied that he was a psychic. But people who can generate a lot of psychic energy can influence people around them. And if you read his biography, you realize that what he accomplished could not have been possible unless he exerted incredibly strong influence over people who were basically his adversaries. You know, he went head-to-head with Sony Corporation to get some of the first hard drives built for Apple. He went head-to-head with Motorola. He took on IBM. You know, he took on Intel. And to get people who were basically against him to work with him, he had to exert some type of influence over them that went beyond the nuts and bolts of, you know, adding up the bottom line on a sheet of paper. It wasn't just that. Mm-hmm. He had a way of influencing people, and sometimes it was a rough way. So I believe he's a person who could generate a huge amount of psychic energy, and because of that, I believe that his ghost is, you know, it's been a number of years now, but I believe his ghost is going to soon manifest in a very strong way, and that's why I'm looking for him. And Steinbeck was very much the same way. You know, he accomplished a literary career that was against all odds, and he accomplished it during the time during the Depression and World War II,
Definitely.
when it was really tough for anybody to make a living from writing. But he accomplished it. And so I think he has a very strong personality that can generate psychic energy. So that's why I'm looking for him as well.
Is this a potential book project?
You know, it's really interesting because I've thought about writing a book about the psychic search for great writers or great people like Steve
I would read
Jobs.
that.
Yeah, and it would be a really difficult project because it would require a lot of travel, a lot of time spent. You have to go to places where these people actually spend a lot of time, and it would be something I like to pursue. But I'm currently working on a different kind of project, looking into prisons, America's prisons.
My familiar haunt for me.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah, you know all about these places. Well, I'm going to write. You know, I have a Ghost Hunters series which has 9 books published now, and the next one I'm working on is Ghost Hunters Guide to America's Prisons, Jails, and Asylums.
Very nice. Very cool.
Yeah,
asylums alone is a huge one because that to me, I went to Pennhurst in Pennsylvania with Jackie, and that had to be the most hotbed place of paranormal activity that I've ever been to.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an electrical storm. All the fire alarms went off, and the buildings like that has never happened since I've owned this place. And it wouldn't shut off. They kept shutting it off manually. It would go back on again. They shut the power down finally to shut it off. But it was thunder and lightning and raining outside, and we had a heck of a night that night with just 3 of us there. But yeah, a lot of
that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite so far. So of course now I want to go back, but you never know. When you go back, sometimes you don't get the same thing again.
And then,
Yeah,
of course,
it's hit or miss. And you know, to write this book on America's prisons, I'm going to go to about 30 different prisons throughout the U.S. So it's going to be a long tour, and I can only be at each place for maybe a day or so. So I have to use everything I've got to try to evoke the spirits who are there to manifest.
Now, are you going during the day, at night, or whatever they'll let you come in?
Yeah, whenever they let me go in, but it doesn't matter to me. I'm not one of those people who thinks it has to be all dark or late at night.
Right.
I've seen most of the spirits I've seen are in broad daylight.
I've seen a lot of action during broad daylight. Now, of course, if you're going to be investigating a lot of prisons, you're going to definitely check out the history of the prison, who was imprisoned there, and incidents that happened there, and definitely you have to do a lot of pre-work before you go to all these places. And
yeah, because I want to target my investigation. I don't want to go in and just wander around and hope something pops up. I want to target at least 3 or 4 hot spots where prison riots occurred, for instance, or where a guard was killed, or the execution room, or something like that, and really get in there and spend as many hours there as I can.
Eastern State Pen is really good for that.
Uh-huh.
You get Al Capone's cell, and there was definitely some murders that happened in that one.
Oh, yeah. I still find Alcatraz to be a really exciting place to go to.
Yeah, the hospital's still where I get the most, but then after reading from one of the doctor's books about force feeding, and they would just bang their heads against the wall till they were dead, just so many fights and just crazy, violent activity in a non-mental, full capacity state. These guys were in the hospital, and they knew they had no other way out, so if they played crazy, a lot of them became crazy because they just were at it so long. And they were drug addicts. There were all kinds of things up there in that hospital.
Oh yeah, it was much more of a horrific place than tourists realize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because I know even the Rangers will be like, "Okay, we try to stay away from telling people that. We just tell them this." You're like, "Oh, okay, so we're going to sort of give you the historical, accuracy version versus the actual details of what really happened."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
and to me, that waters down the history. I think people should know the full thing, the full history, actually, if they're going to visit a place. I feel that's just me.
There ought to be a separate tour of Alcatraz, which is just for people who can handle all that, because you see a lot of kids go out there,
right,
and I don't think
families, of course.
need to hear about it. Yeah.
I only tell my private tour groups of my friends that come out to the island. They get everything. I don't hold anything back for them. But all the regular public, we give them the general knowledge that we're supposed to cover for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of into the bizarre and weird stuff like that. Not in a perverted way so much, but I'm a person, probably like a lot of ghost hunters, who enjoys walking to a cemetery and reading the tombstones and thinking about, especially in Virginia City, Nevada, you read about people who are murdered at the age of 22 and stuff like that. It just kind of fascinates the heck out of me.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that in Sleepy Hollow in Tarrytown, upstate New York. There was a lot. Those are like, Revolutionary War graves. So you get a lot of that young, little, just crazy, strange cemetery.
Yeah, I've been all over the East Coast, and up to Salem, Massachusetts is a place that's really freaky to me too, because a lot of the people who were killed, executed as witches, they're all buried up there in the cemetery, and it's just really freaky, even in daylight hours, to go up there and walk around those graves.
Yeah,
I bet you feel a lot of sadness. Lots of.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's incredibly tragic. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you like to focus on certain places and focus on certain incidents, but when you're investigating, of course, we all know that the spontaneous often happens when you're least expecting it. So, even though you're expecting, or you're feeling your way around the place, what happens when you get the spontaneous? When you get a spontaneous apparition, or you get something spontaneous, how do you work with that, and how do you how do you document that evidence?
It's really hard for a psychic to document anything, because so much of what we perceive is really just a perception, and that's one of the major drawbacks of using the psychic method of investigation because you don't have a photograph or an audio recorder recording a show people or have them listen to. Although I'd use technology to back up my investigations, I run a recorder, sometimes 3 or 4 of them, to pick up what I'm saying, and I use it to make verbal notes. Like I'll say, I'm feeling the presence of a female behind me. So that's on the recorder. So I have that. And I may pick up her voice. If I say, I feel the presence of a female behind me, you may hear on the recorder an EVP that says, yes, see me, something like that. So I use technology in that regard. But yeah, sometimes things pop up. I may be looking for a male ghost, a young male ghost, and yet I may encounter an old female ghost. So I'll go with whoever shows up, and I'll instantly focus my attention on that ghost. Instantly, I'll just try to change as quickly as I can and introduce myself and say, I'm very interested in speaking to you. I didn't know you were here, but I'm so glad that you're here because we need to know about you, and so we can appreciate your life and appreciate the fact that you're here in this house or this building or wherever we are. And I express that we want to appreciate your presence. We want to know that you're here. And that allows the ghost to kind of attach to me in sort of a tension way, so that we make that instant connection.
And you've used photography, because I noticed that you have some photos in your website of some. So So
I try to have a video recorder going the whole time. I set it up so that it has a broad view of a room that I may be investigating, so that my back may be turned, but there may be a light show up behind me, for instance. Yeah. So the video recorder will pick that up, and that's a useful thing. Or something may move, like curtains may move, or something on a table, and I may not notice it, but the video recorder will pick that up. So I use technology. I think my approach is to blend the psychic method and use that to create the relationship with the ghost, but to use technology to document whatever's going on here. Yeah, that's in distinction to a lot of other people who strictly use the technology. They walk in with EMF recorders and infrared cameras and everything else and just use that to try to pick up on a ghost.
I know that I used to do that with all the equipment, and then I realized as I've gone over the years, I've dropped less and less equipment, keeping 1 or 2 very essential items, but then now I just sit in a place and I listen to what the environment is in that place. I listen to if there's anything unusual other than the actual location around me, and if anything changes. I know a lot of people don't like to just sit and be still and listen. It's really hard for a lot of ghost hunters to sit still.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. And yet that's one of the best ways to do it. I think one of the points I make in my book about psychic investigation is you have to get into the point of maximal relevance to the ghost. And what I mean by that is you need to get into a spot within a room, for instance, or a workplace that is really important to that ghost and be in that spot. If you're off kind of looking from a doorway into a room or hundreds of feet away looking at a video monitor of a scene picked up by a camera in that room, it's just hit or miss whether you'll pick up anything interesting at all. Some years ago, I took a crew out to Nuttry Airport in Vacaville. There was a C-47 airplane out there that flew in the Normandy invasion of 1944, and they wanted to investigate it. So they went inside. We got in there, and they set up all these recorders and cameras, and then they strung the cables outside and sat outside looking at monitors and waiting for something to happen. And I thought, you people are crazy. You got to go sit in that pilot's seat. There's a pilot who flew that airplane 18 missions during the 36 hours of the Normandy invasion. Sit in that seat and pick up the vibes of that pilot. Or the stretchers that carried the wounded and the dead back from Normandy were still in the aircraft. I said, you should lay down in those stretchers And that's when you'll have a paranormal experience.
It's funny you should say that. You just reminded me how when I was on the Hornet event last year, the Grey Ghost Paracon, they actually, on one of the groups, they were rotating. They had the original first helicopter that was sent over to Vietnam that actually brought back the first set of wounded, I guess. And they said people experienced things in there, and they let people crawl in and lay down, and it just reminded me of that similar kind of deal, where just because that one helicopter was so significant that people were like, oh, they've had experiences in here, so that's interesting.
Yeah, and if you stood outside and with your video camera focused on the doorway, hoping to pick up an image of a ghost, you might not get it. But if you put down the camera and crawled inside and lay down, where somebody clung to life and possibly died, you would probably experience that ghost. That's what I mean by getting into the point of maximal relevance.
Yep, that makes sense to me. I mean, our friend Jackie likes to dance to get them interested. She tells jokes sometimes.
Yeah,
she'll do whatever she can. Whatever we reference of where we're at to see if we can get a little memory trigger or a little interaction.
Yeah, you have to provoke the ghost in a way that attracts its attention, because most ghosts exist in a state of that we might call somnolent. So they're basically asleep, suspended animation, low energy, whatever you want to call it. They're basically asleep. And,
Linda does that as well.
And you have to basically wake them up in a gentle way, because if you wake them in a sudden way, like most of us, we don't like to be awakened that way. No. So if you wake them up, and then you have to make yourself an attractive target for their psychic energy. And you can do that by expressing an interest in their life. If you've researched them, you know something about their personal history, and you can talk about that. And then they'll look at you as a person of interest, and they'll direct their psychic energy at you. And that's a good way to have more frequent, more vivid, and more longer-lasting experiences with ghosts.
Cool. Jeff, can you hold on just real quick? We're going to have our last real quick break, about 5 minutes or so, and we'll be right back.
Excellent.
Okay, we'll be right back with Ecto Portal.
I see dead people.
Me too.
Ecto
Portal. Jeff, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, and we are back. I think Verna had another question waiting for you, of course.
I wanted to ask you about some of the places that you've visited in the Bay Area. I've been to some of these places, and one of them I definitely experienced a lot of activity. The other one, absolutely none, although it was a gorgeous place. So I want to hear your take on it. The John Muir House in Martinez.
Oh, yeah.
What was your experience?
Cool place.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful house.
Yeah, that place is really interesting because architecturally it's fantastic. He had running water through most of the rooms, and pretty fantastic house. I think it's haunted by one of his daughters. She did not die there, but she probably went back to her favorite room after she died. So I think she's there, reliving some of the best days of her childhood. She died as an adult many years, later. I think she lived to be age 42 or something like that. But it's common for ghosts not to stay where they die, but to go back to where they had some of the best memories of their life. And so his daughter's there. John Muir, I don't think is there. I suspect he's up in the Sierras, marching over some of those trails that he broke in the Sierras somewhere. Yep. But yeah, the house is really a great place, and it's so accessible to many people in the Bay Area. It's a really nice
great orchard there too.
Yeah, the orchard's beautiful, and then there's an old adobe out beyond the orchard that was kind of like a caretaker's house that actually dates from, I think, 1860. So it's got a little history itself. But it's really easy to get over to Martinez from the East Bay. It's less than 30 minutes, probably. It's a good target for ghost hunters who want to spend a beautiful afternoon roaming around a gorgeous estate.
Now, what makes you think that his daughter is actually haunting the room? I mean, what did you pick up while you were there?
Yeah, I picked up some EVP of a little girl's voice, and it seemed, as I aimed my audio recorder, it seemed to come from down near the floor. So I got the impression she was on the floor playing with some of her toys, sitting on the floor like a child would do. It wasn't something, I didn't get the impression she was walking around the room. And she seemed to be unaware that I was there, even though I tried to make psychic contact with her. She was just preoccupied playing with her toys on the floor.
His book collection's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rose Hill Cemetery, what did you experience when you were at Rose Hill?
You know, that place is a bit of a hike to get to, as you probably
Definitely.
know.
Tell me about
And you
it.
have to be careful going up there because there's a lot of rattlesnakes.
Oh, great.
I need to know
Now
that.
you
Now
tell
you
me
tell
after
us.
I went up there.
Yeah, you have to be careful if you go into late spring and summer. A lot of rattlesnakes, and also I've been told there are wild boar up there. Now, I don't know if
didn't see
that's
any boars.
true,
I
but
didn't
I
see
have
any.
been
I
told.
saw a gopher snake, but not a rattler.
Yeah, I've been told you got to watch out for the wild boar up there. But you know that Granny Norton is buried up there, and she is notorious as the ghost of the East Bay, and her ghost supposedly shows up over in the Oakland Hills somewhere, and I'm not sure it's actually her or somebody else who may actually be haunting the Oakland Hills. But Granny Norton died, her carriage overturned, and she kind of now overlooks the cemetery because she was the midwife to a lot of kids who were born in Nortonville, which was the coal mining town up in that area. And a lot of those kids probably died in infancy. They had congenital heart disease, or they died of infections because they had no antibiotics.
I noticed there was a lot of
And-
children buried there.
Yeah, there are. And so I think her ghost is still there looking after these kids that she brought into the world. So she's there. She's not particularly belligerent unless you are one of those people who gets, desecrates a grave. And there are people who do go up there and have campfires on the grave and do other nasty things. And she gets belligerent with them. But I didn't find her to be belligerent.
Just those that abuse and neglect and vandalize.
Yeah, it's usually pretty quiet and pretty peaceful over there. I haven't seen anybody really go up there and disrespect any of the grave sites over there. But I did notice that there is a lot of activity at Rose Hill. And,
Yeah, you know what happens is around May or June, some high school kids go up there, and they take a backpack full of beer and whatever else, and they go up there and build a campfire and do what they call seances, which are not
Oh,
seances.
yeah, they're not really
but-
seances.
I did that
They
when I
have
was in
these-
high school. I didn't build a fire, but I brought a lot of beer.
Yeah,
and
We
stuff.
did
they get a
something
little
like
crazy.
that.
I hung around a
and
lot of
so
cemeteries when I was
Every
young.
once in a while, you hear of a grass fire up there,
Oh, that
or you
sucks.
go back and see some smudges of smoke on one of the headstones that aren't broken up. So yeah, people do get crazy up there, but that's a really spooky, interesting place to go. And
Yeah.
again, it's not far from the East Bay.
No, and it's so funny because I have one of the early spirit boxes, the PX, and my sister and her boyfriend and I, we all went. He took us to the cemetery, and I think we kept encountering this guy named Doug twice in the graveyard, and he was like sitting with us in the bench, and we were just talking away, and he was like talking back in the PX. It was just really a interesting interaction that we had, which was really cool. So,
Yeah, there are spirits up there that are anxious to communicate because it is a pretty desolate area.
oh yeah, I mean it's way up there with the rattlesnakes.
And I believe the Black Diamond Mines is close by, and there's also a lot of spirit activity at the Black Diamond Mines. Even walking in.
Yeah, there are people who are miners who died of the black lung disease, which is from the coal mining. They did that. A lot of people don't realize that coal mining was really big up in that area, and that coal went to San Francisco, to the great mansions in San Francisco, to keep those people nice and warm and cozy at night.
Would that be pre-earthquake, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, it was.
All those big mansions.
And it was a pretty miserable experience living up there because it's pretty hot and dry in the summertime. And they had these little shacks that were not insulated, of course. So you roasted in the summer and you froze in the winter. And food was, not great. It was provided by the coal mining company. It was the cheapest food they could get.
Potatoes.
And a lot of people had to buy their clothes and cooking utensils and food from the company store. So they were kept constantly in debt to the company. So it wasn't a great experience for these people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, as far as events coming up, do you have some events coming up, appearances?
Yeah, I've got some things happening. I'm going to be investigating over in Concord this weekend. But then again, as we get into October, there's a great thing up in Sonoma in October. On Monday night, October 3rd, I think it is, the Sebastiani Theater, which is a haunted theater. There is going to be a showing of a full-length feature ghost documentary done by a award-winning filmmaker, and it's on the ghosts of Sonoma. So I'd urge everybody to go to the Sebastiani Theater website and look into getting tickets. There's a showing at 7 and again at 9 o'clock. It's a Monday night. So I'll be up there, and I've got some events coming up in October. Things are firming up for Winchester Mystery House, and
nice.
So it's going to get busy real quick, real soon.
Do you know if the Winchester Mystery House at all? I know they talked like a year ago about having overnights in a restaurant, and do you know if any of that ever happened?
I don't think they've had any overnighters yet. They've been talking a lot about it.
Okay.
There's a lot of issues about that because they do not like people roaming through that place unattended. And even when we filmed Ghost Adventures there, we had quite a few of docents following each of us around. So, you wouldn't open up a cabinet that shouldn't be opened, or, God forbid, sit in a chair that shouldn't be sat in. So they were constantly following everybody around. And so I would be surprised if they let anyone stay overnight up in the main house.
Darn, I want to.
And I know Helen Mirren's filming the Winchester, her life, and they're actually going to shoot there for a while, so they better have a few more docents on hand.
Yeah. For that, I was really thrilled that they were going to film that at Winchester Mystery House. But then again, I was astounded because even though it's been under different management over the last few years, I'm still they are still very protective of the place.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I guess they won't let anybody take photographs if you're on the tours either, which I thought was amazing.
People do, and if you just turn off your flash, and it's interesting. I used to go through there as a tourist, and what I would always do, and I do this at a lot of haunted locations or historical places that require you to go with a tour. I'm the guy who always lags behind. And when I went on the underground tour in Seattle and Shanghai tours in Portland, places like that, I was the guy who was always just kind of a slow walker and would fall behind and get 20, 30 feet away from the crowd. And then I would kind of do my thing to try to pick up on spirits. But I noticed at Winchester Mystery House now they actually have a docent leading the group and another one picking up the rear to keep people from straggling behind.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I've heard that one's pretty protected as far as the docents go, though. So I'll be surprised if they ever do any overnights or ever let any ghost hunters in there, because there's money to be made there.
Oh, yeah.
But if they don't really need it, I guess there's no point.
Yeah. I think a place that I'm really focused on right now is Brookdale Lodge up there in the Santa Cruz Mountains, because, it went through, we filmed Ghost Adventures up there, and it went through a lot of legal problems because there was a wrongful death suit and other things. And it's now in new hands that have renovated the Brook Room. and into a wedding corporate retreat kind of a place. And it's supposed to be opening this fall. And I've mentioned to the local ghost hunting group over in Santa Cruz that they should try to organize a paracon over there.
Yeah.
That would be pretty exciting.
Or Doug. Maybe Doug could get in there.
Yeah, Doug might be able to get in there.
Yeah, he probably could.
Isn't he have an event coming up in, is it Yuma, Arizona?
Yeah, Yuma in January, and I'm excited about that because Yuma Prison is on my list of places I'm putting in my book on Ghost Hunter's Guide to America's Prisons, Jails, and Asylums. And I've been there before, and I've always found it fascinating, and I'm looking forward to getting back there in January.
Cool. I was curious. I might actually have to go to that one because I was like, ooh, I always wanted to go to Tombstone and missed out, so maybe Yuma.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap to fly down there, and the hotel is giving a good discount, so you can get down there and stay a couple nights and fly down for about $350. That's all it is. It's pretty good for a 3-day weekend, 2 nights, 3-day weekend. It's really great.
And get these two to go with me. We'll do a lecture for Doug.
Yeah.
Sure. He's been wanting us to come up anyway.
He would love that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. So as far as books, do you got anything new coming out or anything that just came out?
You know what just came out? Actually, it just came out today.
Oh, good timing.
Ghost Hunter's Guide to New Orleans Revised Edition.
Oh, and I'm going back on November 1st. I'll have to pick that up.
Wow,
oh, you got to get it. And I'll tell you, I'm excited about it because the first New Orleans book I wrote was before Katrina.
Oh.
And what I did is I submitted my manuscript to my publisher who is in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it to them, and they received it about August 26th. And Katrina struck on August 28th.
Wow.
And so I had visions of my manuscript floating down the Mississippi River out to the Gulf of Mexico because for 3 months, my publisher could not be contacted.
Oh, that's scary in itself.
No email, no telephone, no snail mail, nothing.
Wow.
And so finally we got in touch and the book came out and all that. So I went back a number of times after Katrina and investigated places that had been affected by the hurricane. Places where a lot of people died.
Right.
I went into the 9th Ward and went into these houses where they had symbols on the front of the house by how many dead bodies were found inside.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant the first time I went to New Orleans, and somebody finally explained it to me. And there's plenty of houses, even in the French Quarter, with the marks still on it.
Yeah, it's kind of a mark of honor at this point. People say, hey, I live in a house where 3 dead bodies were found. So it's a big deal. So I've been down there. So I decided I've got to rewrite the book. So I rewrote the Ghost Hunter's Guide to New Orleans, and the new edition came out today.
Cool. Wow, and they can get that on your website. What's your website?
It's just jeffdwyer.com. www.jeffdwyer.com. But I don't have any copies here with me currently.
Okay.
But if they want to get one right away, the best thing to do is go to Amazon.com.
Amazon,
and
cool.
you'll find it. You'll find it right there.
That's where I'll be going.
Yeah, so that's new, and then I'm working on this prisons, jails, and asylums book, and that probably won't be out till the fall of 2017.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. You'll be exhausted after all those trips to prison.
You have a lot of material.
Yeah, I'm hitting the road real soon to head out to all these prisons, and looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
I'm taking my protection with me, my St. Benedict medals and the holy water and all that stuff.
Good idea.
I would if I were you.
Looks like we're out of time, Jeff. It went fast.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, and of course we want to have you back on, and hopefully we'll see you at an event soon.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, if you're listening, make sure you check out Jeff's new book that came out today. Go to his website, check things out there. And he has plenty of books, so you'll be able to pick up quite a few if you travel.
On probably every type of subject that deals with investigations, he has.
It's great. Good stuff.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. So anyway, I appreciate the time. It's been fun talking to you. I hope to see you before Halloween.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, have a good night, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on.
Bye-bye, Anthony. Bye, Verna.
Bye.
Bye.
And drop. Okay. All right. That was great.
That was a great show.
All right. So we're going to go right to the end now. So stay tuned for next week when we have another guest, Deborah Carr-Singer, in haunted Illinois, haunted Normal, Illinois. She does tours down there. She also does Mrs. Lincoln in Recreations. So she's got a lot of. She's also a psychic,
she's got
a medium.
another book
She does
on
a couple of
haunted
reenactments,
Bloomington, Illinois,
That's-
which I love
Yep,
to talk to her
her
about
new
that.
book's coming out. That's why we are going to have her on the show to talk about her book,
Really
her
neat
tour,
lady.
her experiences, her mediumship skills,
It'll be great
and
to have Deborah
experiences.
on.
And I'm looking forward
And
to
she's
Deb
a
coming
friend.
on.
She's a
very
friend.
nice. I love
Yeah.
Deb.
Friend.
So we'll look forward to her next week. Until then, folks, make sure you come back to the Ecto Portal.
Good night.
Portal.